welcome to Stan the Energy Man here on ThinkTech Hawaii, celebrating 20 years, bringing shows to people around the world on anything of interest and community interest, especially here in Hawaii. So today we're going to kind of get back to some of my old home turf. In fact, I ended up starting Stan the Energy Man when I was working for the state of Hawaii in an organization called HCATT, the Hawaii Center for Advanced Transportation Technologies. And it had a 20-year history as well, starting with a gentleman named Tom Quinn, who helped Hawaii get ahead of it, the power curve on plug-in electric vehicles. And he brought in some buses and a lot of vehicles from Hyundai and some other manufacturers and got them really kind of on the streets here, set up charging stations and things like that. All the while helping the Air Force kind of get into battery electric vehicles as well. He then started transitioning the battery electric vehicles to the state energy office to let them take the lead on that. And he started working on hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. And while he got those programs going, then he retired. I jumped in the middle of hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, and that's how I cut my teeth on the energy stuff that I really enjoy doing right now. So when I left HCATT, the gentleman that I have for a guest today, Dave Molinaro, jumped in the saddle, and he's been running with HCATT for probably at least 4 years now, and he's been doing a great job. And since the time I was there, we've kind of transitioned into still doing the hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, but also doing microgrids for the Air Force and trying to help paint the way for Hawaiian Electric and other grid operators to learn how to use hydrogen to help them absorb more renewable energy, store it, and put it back on the grid instead of just going with batteries. So HCATT's been a really big part of the Hawaii energy scene in many ways, and Dave and Rachel James and I have worked hard to try and get hydrogen into the mix, into the renewable energy mix, clean energy mix here in Hawaii. And Dave's still running the game there at HCATT. So, Dave, welcome to the show today.
Thanks, Dan.
Just so everybody knows, too, Dave's better half is also a host here on ThinkTech. I guess that's kind of like full disclosure.
Yeah.
She's Lillian with the Lillian's Vegan World. So if you want to send some hydrogen vegan questions in, please feel free to do so, and we'll force Dave to answer them on the air. But Dave, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for the intro, Stan. Thank you for the opportunity. Certainly big shoes to fill with you and taking your place and Tom Quinn's as the director of HCATT. It's been quite a great ride and an opportunity, but thanks for letting me be on your show again today. I wanted to cover some of the things that we're talking about that are relevant to HCATT and some of the opportunities that are here in Hawaii. So if I could, I've got a PowerPoint presentation to share, and if you want to get into it,
that'd be great. I saw the PowerPoint a couple of weeks ago, and I was really impressed with it. So yeah, grab it. Let's make it run.
Again, I think you could probably see that, but it's progress and opportunities for hydrogen fuel cells in Hawaii, and it's going to tell the story of really of HCATT and what some of those opportunities are. I wanted to, I always start this presentation with really to set the stage on how unique Hawaii really is. And Mark Twain, who visited Hawaii for, he was a writer for, I believe it was the Sacramento Bee. He wrote this quote back to the mainland back in the early 19th century, basically that no alien land in all the world has any deep, strong charm for me, but that one, no other land could so longingly and beseechingly haunt me, sleeping and waking through half a lifetime as that one has done. And obviously he's referring to the Hawaiian Islands. And I think it really sets the stage for what a unique environment we are and what we have and what a blessing it is to live here in Hawaii. Hawaii is really unique in many aspects. Unfortunately, it's got a unique energy landscape as well. And I'm not going to read the whole slide to you for sake of time, but the big takeaway is that Hawaii has got a unique energy environment. In fact, because of its geographic separation from the mainland, and we have zero traditional energy reserves, as you know, Stan. And Hawaii's infrastructure and consumption are unique amongst the states. We're spending $3.5 billion a year in importing petroleum for its energy needs, which is well more than any other state. In fact, Hawaii's dependence on fossil fuels is really frightening, as you know, Stan. Um, we rely on about 61% of for oil and almost 12% of electricity generation on petroleum products and coal. So those are some pretty big numbers. And Hawaii's heavy dependence on imported fossil fuels and its isolated utility grids. Most people don't know that the utility grids between the islands aren't interconnected. Again, makes it a really unique situation in Hawaii. And again, as some of the stats point out, we have some expensive rates, and I think it's what we call the cost of living in paradise. So again, some unique challenges for us for setting ourselves up for the state's 2045 renewable portfolio standard, which is the state's initiative to get us off of fossil fuel for energy production. Hawaii's energy challenges, again, from I pointed out in the pre-slide, is we have a lot of PV. In fact, I think we have the highest per capita in the nation with almost 850 megawatts of installed solar. The problem that this really generates is what's known as the duck belly. And that lower right quadrant box is what's known as the duck belly curve. And what it really shows is that as when peak demand occurs after sunset, when solar power is no longer available, you have to have some other type of energy backup to support that. And it is a big problem. So what it really shows is that this duck silhouette is a very significant problem in Hawaii. And without any form of energy storage, the utilities have got to rapidly increase traditional forms of power generation. In this case, it would be the oil and coal to compensate for the loss of solar production. So yeah, it's great. We've got all the solar capacity, 850 megawatts and growing, but it is a challenge. And we have to have that way. We have to have a way to really capture that renewable energy in a storage capacity, and that's the foray into the next slide. And I think hydrogen, Stan, as you know, is a really great opportunity. And what we want to do is really talk about what opportunities are in Hawaii that we can be resolved that can be resolved through hydrogen.
And as you mentioned too,
Yeah.
although we have a lot of solar and even some wind on the North Shore, a lot of that renewable energy is on the neighbor islands. And you mentioned we don't have an undersea cable. We don't have ways to get a lot of that renewable that we do have from Maui and the Big Island. And, Kauai has their own energy grid, but we don't have a whole lot of options for bringing that renewable to Oahu where all the people are.
No, you're absolutely right. And unlike the mainland or other countries in Europe, for example, where the grids are connected, if there's a power surge or demand increase or decrease, you've got the ability to move power around CONUS, for example. The islands, you don't. And that really puts the utilities at a unique challenge. One of the things that we look at, and Stan, again, being the former director, you know the benefits of hydrogen. And again, I don't want to explain a really complex slide, but what this really talks about is that hydrogen has the capacity to be a long-term energy storage medium. And the graph on the left just basically shows that as on the vertical axis, it's really, you're looking at the levelized cost of power, the cost of electricity. Bottom graph is hours of storage. That green band shows that, hey, if you're going to increase the size of the batteries, they become exponentially more expensive. That middle bar, that middle graph, fuel cells and steel tanks really shows traditional storage capability. Again, as the hours of storage requirement increase, it is much cheaper than traditional battery technology, or even future battery technology that we hear so commonly referred to as, hey, let's just put a battery out in the utility or in the grid to manage the power system. That's a big technical challenge. This horizontal bar, the blue bar, shows fuel cells, and if, for example, we could use geologic caverns like they're doing on the mainland to store natural gas, you could store hydrogen as well too. That gives almost an unlimited capacity. The takeaway from this graph is hydrogen can be used to for production and storage as a demand response tool. So as you have the requirement for additional energy needs, you can use hydrogen as a storage medium to really produce electricity. That third bullet point, and what's really important now is hydrogen products can create new revenue streams to producers. That translates into jobs here in the islands, new opportunities, and really about resiliency for the utility grid. Um, I alluded to in the first couple slides are great opportunities here in Hawaii for renewable energy and hydrogen in particular. We have geothermal we can tap into. Again, ubiquitous amounts of wind and PV, almost unlimited. Electrolyzers for energy and grid storage management, and hydrogen in our existing utility pipelines. Hawaii Gas, as you know, has been a big supporter of hydrogen technology and are looking for ways to adapt and increase the utilization of hydrogen to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and to really push the renewable energy sector here. Those opportunities are almost boundless as well. Everything from airports to public transit, municipal, and military. The tourism industry would certainly benefit from hydrogen and hydrogen fuel cell technology. Those are all pluses. So, and again, the takeaway is we've got hydrogen. It can be produced from diverse natural resources within the state. All those on the left, we've got that capability to produce hydrogen, and it can really benefit. If there's a power requirement in any sector, hydrogen and hydrogen fuel cells can meet that need.
One of the things that I haven't heard for a long time, and it relates to that last bullet on that slide, was
Mhm.
tourism. People don't realize that the big tour buses that we see all the time in Waikiki and all the neat places to visit around the islands, there's anti-idling ordinances in all the counties where those tour buses, when they're not moving and they're just stopped and sitting, they have to shut down their engines. And if people are sitting inside, maybe they don't feel like getting out at that stop, or they just want to stay inside. They can't, because the air conditioning gets shut off when the bus is shut off. But the hydrogen fuel cell buses, the air conditioning keeps running even when the bus is stopped and not moving, because you can run the air conditioner independent of the drivetrain. So all those buses, you can have nice air conditioned comfort for your passengers, and that's a huge selling point for those bus companies.
Oh, absolutely. I think just the ecotourism aspect of having a capability to move people around using renewable energy, and as you know, hydrogen fuel cells, what do they produce? Water and air, and that's
That's
it.
it.
There's no greenhouse
Water and heat.
gases.
Yeah,
It's
water, heat, and
yep,
electricity.
absolutely. So there is definitely an upside, and as you're talking to, I think the tourism industry could certainly benefit from hydrogen fuel cell technology. The bus industry in particular as well too. Um, it's happening throughout the world, and it needs to happen here in Hawaii. So I really want to talk a little bit about HCAT and what we're doing from the military and how that applies to the state. Um, just a real quick update. So HCAT, Vice Center for Advanced Transportation Technologies, our vision is energy for change, and no, that's not a typo. Change is H2 because we see hydrogen as the premier renewable energy to move to us to 2045, reduce greenhouse gas emissions. It's really a resource that's is not understood and not being capitalized on as much as it should. Our mission is to inspire and transform Hawaii's clean energy future. That's pretty straightforward. And the four main focus points are to innovate to meet the state's 2045 renewable portfolio standards, to really accelerate the adoption of hydrogen technology, build the relations that we have already with the Department of Defense, state, and our public and private stakeholders. And Stan, one of the big areas that you really were just absolutely stupendous with was educate and influence. Through this show, your community outreach has just been wonderful because it's really about getting people to understand and acknowledge what hydrogen can and cannot do. And I think really get rid of some of the myths that are behind hydrogen. you talk hydrogen on the street, what's the first? It's like a word association game. Hydrogen equates to the Hindenburg or the hydrogen bomb, so there's negative connotations, but educate and influence. I mean, really, everybody is really important because the more you understand and the more the public understands and leadership understands, uh, really is going to make the change for us. So those are our main goals and objectives. Some of the areas that we've got within the state or within HCATT revolve around our hydrogen fuel cell demonstration projects. It's infrastructure for the military. So um, we have a first of a kind, it's the longest standing hydrogen fueling station. It's located at Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam. The station can store up to 370 kilograms of compressed hydrogen. And we've got some up to 10,000 PSI right now. Um, it's connected to a 446 kilovolt or kilowatt, excuse me, solar array. And the station can generate up to 65 kilograms a day. So the station's primarily a demonstration project for the Air Force and the DoD. And we've really come up with some neat technologies and demonstration equipment. Stan, again, when you were here, you led that charge for some of those efforts. And it's really been a benefit, not only in the military, but it is to the state of Hawaii as well, too. Um, just some examples of some of the existing we have right now. The upper left is a DB Surrey that's a 25 passenger bus with a fuel cell in it. My personal favorite, the upper right, the weapons loader, fuel, which is a hydrogen fuel cell. It's used to load munitions on aircraft, only demonstration, of course. The lower right is a U-30 aircraft tug, which is really exciting because this is a commercial off-the-shelf capability where our partners with US Hybrid have developed the system where they install the hydrogen fuel cell in place of the diesel electric system. And this is a commercial scale aircraft tug. In this picture, it's towing a KC-135,
Yep.
kind of light at 186,000 pounds. And I know, Stan, you've got some time in a KC-135. So you're
Yeah, it's about
intimately
1,000
familiar with
hours or
that
so.
system.
But
About
believe it or not,
1,000 hours.
the KC-135 is actually considered a heavy aircraft like a 747 because when you fill it up with fuel, it gets over 300,000 pounds. So even though we had it kind of light for this tow test, it sits in the same class as C5s and 747s.
It's a neat technology, and again, it shows where we can apply hydrogen fuel cell equipment in the commercial sector. And in this case, military can transition to the aviation sector here in Hawaii very, very easy. So the other item is the secure power and demand. That's a unique capability to provide export power. We could use it in an emergency response situation. So um, real quickly, some of the other areas that HCATT's been involved is this is a first of a kind. It was a hydrogen shore power maritime fuel cell. It was developed. It was developed through HCATT, HNEI, Young Brothers, and the Department of Energy, Coast Guard, MARAD. But it was basically shoreside hydrogen power that was used. Hydrogen fuel cells to power shoreside. In this case, it could go on a barge, and that power cell could be used to power all the refrigerated containers that are on a Young Brothers barge, for example. Very unique capability, very unique opportunity that's very applicable here as well. The other area, Stan, that again we've talked about and everybody's pretty familiar with is the Pearl Microgrid, the Pacific Energy Assurance and Renewables Lab. Not to get too complicated, but with renewable energy, that is throughout the islands, you have to have a way to control and manage that, and those will be through microgrids. Um, this microgrid project is, again, it's focused on the military because it provides energy assurance and resiliency for the Hawaii Air National Guard, but it'll allow renewable energy to be used. In fact, if the utility grid goes down, this particular portion of the campus in green will be able to be up and operational, be in islanded mode, using the primarily the PV, and we've got some unique battery equipment that is installed there as well too to help power the system. It'll give the ability for the wing commander to move the power around the campus. But again, demonstration project for the military that transition to what the state can and will need to do if we're going to get to the 2045 RPS. I'm not going to show you the microgrid video because where our link is for the TDC HCATT website. You can access that there as well. But the microgrid is a great video. So we just move on here. Some of the main objectives of the Pearl Lab are an energy assurance resiliency project. It's going to be a platform for next generation energy technologies. Stan, as you know, when we first got into this, it was really about developing different renewable energy technologies that can be incorporated into the grid. And the third bullet is, again, transitioning this technology from what the military does to what the state needs to do. This is a perfect technology and business development lab for the state to use for meet the 2045 RPS requirements. Just some last minute H2 initiatives that we've got. There are several partners that are actively involved and collaborate with in the hydrogen technologies. Servco with the Toyota Mirai. I mentioned Hawaii Gas has done some great work with hydrogen technology and injection of hydrogen into the existing pipeline. HNEI is world renowned with what they've done with support to hydrogen fuel cell technology. And our legislators are really on board with hydrogen. There's been some initiatives and some legislation for hydrogen fuel cell station development, tax incentives, investment tax credits, so on and so forth. Unfortunately, we lost a little bit of traction with that just because of the COVID, but nevertheless, we've got some great opportunities out there and some great advocacy. Education outreach, real briefly, I'll jump into this. We've talked about our favorite generators, Stan, that we used in a National Guard exercise that provided electrical power to critical infrastructure for a disaster response operation exercise. 100% reliable. We were able to exercise and use some commercial off-the-shelf hydrogen generators and lights for that. We've done some stuff with Kapolei City Lights, Hawaii Gas's dedication facility. Again, active involvement. That community outreach is a big big and important part of what HCATT does. Again, education outreach. We've developed videos. I've done some presentations to the public, Rotary Club, other agencies, other interested parties that want to know about what hydrogen is all about, and again, promote that advocacy too as well. So, we're involved at all levels of, hydrogen activities within the state. Again, there's a link to the video. I'll share that at the end. Our path forward, real quick, is really we're looking to transition hydrogen fuel cell EVs and technology and military to the state. That's very important. Again, because we're tied into the military and our funding is really federal at this point right now, we're looking to expand our alliances with other entities in the Pacific, support the state's hydrogen infrastructure development, expansion of public refueling stations, integrating technologies, you name it. HCATT is there to promote that. We've talked about the training and education. It's so rewarding to see these young kids get involved with hydrogen because they understand the technologies and they want to see more of it. And again, that last bullet is HCATT's role is really to talk about the techno-economic analysis and really show what hydrogen can do, what the microgrids can be able to do for not only the military, but again, the state's capabilities as well. Here's our website. We've got a great social media network. I do want to put a shout out to my staff, Kana Kawai, our operations specialist, who does great work on social media, and Christine Tanabasa, who is our contracts administrator. I could not do what I'm doing right now without their great support as well. So that's it for the formal presentation. I know it leaves us a couple minutes for Q&A. If there's anything out there, I'd be more than willing and happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Dave. I really appreciate that. Yeah, we don't have any from the audience right now, but yeah, the outreach and education piece has been really important for HCATT, and it's not just for the public. Yeah. Although we did a lot of great stuff with, like you said, Eat the Streets, and there was an Oktoberfest we provided light cards for, and some other high-end venues where we provided generator power and lights. But the legislature, when we first started at HCATT, we just had a couple senators and House people that really kind of understood the hydrogen, and now I'd say we've probably tripled or maybe quadrupled the number of supporters in the state legislature thanks to your efforts, and Rachel James and the folks that really reached out there to talk and testify at legislature in support of hydrogen. Servco has been a great partner trying to get the word out, and of course they've got a stake in their. They're trying to sell their Toyota Mirai cars, but they realize they're not going to be making money on those cars for years to come. They've got to get a bunch of them out there before they make any money on them. So they've actually taken a big business risk to educate the public and make those vehicles available here in Hawaii when, quite frankly, they wouldn't normally be available because we don't have a cap and trade program that attracts those cars like they do in California and some other states. So, we've had Hawaii Gas, like you mentioned, Servco, a lot of community and schools that have had us out there to do presentations. The county of Honolulu with Kapolei City Lights, a real chance to really show off what hydrogen can do, how safe it is, and it's gaining traction all around the world. We see and I know you do too, the industrial publications that just talk about where hydrogen is now, and all over the world, it's really, really gaining traction because people can see that batteries, when you get to the large scale, are just going to be too expensive. And the fuel cells are getting cheaper, they're getting smaller, they're getting lighter. The electrolyzers are becoming more capable, and again, more production with less power. All heading the right direction to make hydrogen a really great way to make the transition to clean energy and use particularly the intermittent renewables. So thanks, really. I'm going to leave last minute too, but thanks to you and the guys at HCATT for continuing to carry the torch and keep things moving for hydrogen.
I appreciate that, Stan. Again, thanks for the advocacy. Thanks for the opportunity for being on the show. It's just going to be a matter of continuing dialogue and engage for people to understand the technology, what hydrogen can do, and really talk about the benefits, because that's what it really is. I don't know if there's a Moore's law that relates to hydrogen as there is with computer and computer memory, but as this technology matures, which it has, it's just almost exponentially matured over the past few years. It's going to be able to do more and more. So it's a capability, it's a technology we seriously need to look at. The paradigms of the Hindenburg or hydrogen bomb need to go away, because hydrogen it's really our future, and it's here, it's now, and it's just a matter of getting out there and continuing to pursue. I appreciate the state support on what we're doing, our national congressional leadership as well too, in advocating and supporting for HCATT and moving forward. It's an honor to be part of this. It gets me out of bed every day, and I think I told you on my first day with HCATT, thanks for the opportunity to do this. I think I'm probably one of the happiest state employees there is in being able to advocate and do the important work that HCATT's doing. So
it was really
awesome.
easy to get excited about what we did down there every day.
Yeah.
So thanks a lot, Dave. Give our best to Lillian, the vegan chef, and make sure if you're going to watch HCATT, you watch her show too, not just mine. Don't just watch mine. You got to watch her show too, and eat healthy. So Dave, thanks again. And for the audience, we'll see you next week, Tuesday on Stan Energy Man. Aloha.